Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and you're listening to the only podcast dedicated entirely to the world's borough, a place overflowing with culture, creativity, and community. This show is brought to you by the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council, both committed to spotlighting the people and places that make this borough such a remarkable destination. One of the first things that people say about Queens is simple and true. You can eat your way around the world without ever leaving the borough. And it's not just a slogan, it's a lived experience, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. For instance, in Astoria, the smells alone tell the story. Greek tavernas serving grilled octopus and lemon potatoes. In my neighborhood of Jackson Heights, you're suddenly choosing between Momo dumplings, Colombian arepas, Indian chat, Thai street food, and Tibetan noodle soups. Flushing is a universe unto itself with regional Chinese cuisines, Korean barbecue, and so much more. And in Jamaica, Richmond Hill, and South Ozone Park, Caribbean flavors shine. What makes Queens' food scene even more special is its staying power. Many of these restaurants aren't trends, they're institutions. Some have been feeding neighborhoods for decades, others for more than a century. One of the most remarkable examples of that history is Neir's Tavern. Opened in 1829, Neir's isn't just old, it's one of the oldest continuously operating bars in New York City. Nearly 2 centuries later, its doors are still open. It has survived prohibition, wars, economic collapses, and the recent global pandemic. Joining us this week is the person helping to carry that legacy forward. Loy Gordon is the owner and CEO of the historic Tavern, and this month he's going to receive the Claire Shulman Spirit of Community Award from the Queens Centers for Progress and its annual Evening of Fine Food on Tuesday, February 24th. Here's my interview with Loy Gordon, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is great. I've been waiting for this.
So, Neir's Tavern has been called one of the oldest bars in New York City, going back to 1829. Share with our listeners what first drew you to this historic place and what made you want to take on the challenge of preserving it.
Well, Jeff, this wasn't my ultimate dream to be a restaurateur, to own a bar. But unfortunately, things change in your life and you got to act. And one of the things that I had to act on was one of America's oldest taverns was days from closing. And I looked around thinking that someone's going to help, right? This is a travesty. And no one did anything. And I understand it was a big pursuit to try to, own a bar, especially you've never had any business experience. But I said, what if this silly Jamaican kid can help save one of America's oldest taverns as a way to kind of also give back to the country that gave me a lot. As we know, we're in Queens, a borough of immigrants, and I think we're still relevant. And I think that was one of my big push to kind of help to restore this iconic place. And the rest is just an amazing amalgamation of incidences and ups and downs to lead us here.
And what shape was it in when you stepped in? What were the biggest hurdles you faced in revitalizing such an iconic establishment?
Well, when I discovered that $200 on a Saturday night at Neir's Tavern was a big deal for them. I was like, wait a minute. This is why they were 6 months behind in rent. The place was just beaten down. For me, it felt like that senior citizen, that old person that was forgotten in the nursing home. Do you understand that feeling? For me, that's what it felt like when I looked at Neir's and said, this old person, right, this old business have so much history and so much to offer to this country and to us as individuals, but yet it was just kind of neglected and forgotten. And just because it's old, that doesn't mean it doesn't have the value to give and to teach the younger generations and things like that, right? So I just felt it was one of those situations where it was almost like that old senior person that was forgotten and it was just broken down. There was, unfortunately, paint was just spilling and coming off of the ceiling, and it was smelly and it was just really, really bad and wasn't conducive for what Near's Tavern was back in its heyday. And it's like, what happened? So it was really, really bad. And I wanted to do something about that.
And I want to introduce It's in Queens listeners to, the history. I'm sure there are a number of stories or traditions that stand out to you, and I'd love for you to talk about one or two.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand first why the even Near's Tavern even existed in the first place. Like what? Why did this place even existed? And it really goes back to this racehorse track that was called Union Racetrack, and it was the most famous racetrack in the country back in the 1800s. They said the city of New York was empty. That was so many people. That said over 100,000 people will descend at this very location to watch the Northern Horse and the Champion Horse from the South to come and race. And that drew some really huge crowd. And obviously, as a shrewd businessman, his name was Carl Walter Colden, decided to open a bar right across from the entrance of the racetrack. And that's how Near's Tavern got its start back in 1829. And just a little history, if you want me to tell you a little bit more, we go on and we were the backdrop to the Civil War. And, when the Civil War broke out, Near's Tavern was there. And right across the street, that same racetrack became a soldier encampment. That was a staging area before they went down south to fight. And so we served soldiers. And we even had one of the first bowling alleys in the early 1900s, and with these duck pins. Mae West got her start here in her heyday. She got her start and then moved to Brooklyn, and everybody knew her from Brooklyn. But she has a house, and she had a house in Woodhaven, just a few blocks from Nears. And of course, Goodfellas. Who could forget the Goodfellas movie? 14% of that movie was filmed here, right here. This is one of the number one mob classics of all time. And so much of it was filmed here. People come from all around the world to visit this place. And so it's just filled with history. I could go on, but I just wanted to get you a sense of so much history that's here. This is that forgotten grandfather that we're going to bring back to prominence.
And you've often described Nears as more than a bar. It feels like it's like Cheers. It's a community gathering place. So talk a little about how you've cultivated that sense of connection among your customers.
I've always said that as a local business, we are not supposed to consider ourselves just as a local business. Every local business needs to understand their community business, meaning that, yes, you have a local location, but what you are fostering is community. You are deeply ingrained in people's everyday lives. And as more and more technology evolve, we understand that the most important thing right now, we have to go back to connection, and local business really needs to return to that. And so we decided when I took over Near's Tavern to bring back the community values to Near's Tavern. And that was one of the most transformative things that I was able to do to help Near's Tavern to reconnect. As again, the problem was, for the most part, was that people forgot. The neighborhood changed so fast, and Nears became just a local place and not a community place. And so we lost that connection with people and with those that are moving into the neighborhood. It was no longer Eastern European, Irish, Italian neighborhood anymore. There was Hispanics and people from India and China and African Americans. It was just a beautiful, diverse neighborhood. And I had to make sure that whatever Near's Tavern look like inside needs to look like outside, and vice versa. That is the symbiotic relationship of going from a local business to a community business. And that was one of the most transformative things that we did to build that community.
The hospitality industry really can be tough, particularly during the recent years of change, the pandemic, lots of uncertainty. How has Nears adapted and evolved to stay relevant in modern times while keeping its heritage intact?
I think we can all say that local business and all small business needs to continue to evolve in some way. to the changing times. You can add the bells and whistles. We have the email list, so we started an email list. Did they have email lists in the 1800s? No, they didn't, right? So we evolved to have that. We're on social media. We're very active. We have a loyalty club, but the most important thing to evolve, to become, continue to be relevant, is to establish a deep connection with our core customer base. And we do that through what we have called the Neir's Ambassadors Club. Essentially, is the most dedicated guests that we have that are acting as advisors, as stewards for this Road to 200, initiative that we have, and they keep a deep connection with us because no amount of bells and whistles is going to replace a connection with people that actually care. I can't tell you the amount of times, I'll tell you a quick story. Uh, we often hear, I often hear too many times, hey, Neir's Tavern, yeah, I keep hearing about that place. I've been meaning to go. I've been meaning to go. And it's something that is very important because we have to learn how to put our intentions to the actions. I had this guy that saw me in a grocery store the other day, and he said, "Oh, you're the owner of Neir's." I said, "Yeah, how we doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I remember in 2019, you guys." My friend kept telling me to go there. We got to go there. And I said, yeah, I got to go there. Then I saw you guys were going to close and went to national media. And I said, yeah, now we're okay now. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I thought I was going to miss a chance to actually visit. I was like, yeah. So, I mean, how many times did you visit after that? He's like, yeah, I still mean to go there. And that's the thing, right? If I had probably 10% of the people that said I've been meaning to go to Neir's Tavern, probably would have bought our building, create a nonprofit so that Neir's Tavern will never be subjected to close or do another GoFundMe.
You are known as not just a business owner, but also a community advocate and a firefighter. How do these other roles influence each other, influence how you operate the business even and how you serve your community?
I mean, I'm not a restaurateur with decades of owning a whole bunch of different restaurants. I didn't go to culinary school. I wasn't a bartender. I wasn't a dishwasher in a commercial kitchen. I wasn't that. But what those two roles have brought, being a former first responder and saving this tavern and being a community advocate, is that it's a role of service. That's just always been deep in me. And that was brought to my fiber, unfortunately, because of when I first came to this country, the teachers discovered that I couldn't read or write at the age of 10 years old. And that really changed me because what they did afterwards was gather the entire faculty together and create a customized plan around me and say, we hope this kid catches on. And I caught on. I caught on so quickly that eventually I graduated top of my class from elementary school. And that changed me because I saw everybody rose up and applauded to say, that's the kid that couldn't read. And look at him now. And that changed me. And so ever that day, I wanted to serve. And whether it's becoming a lieutenant in the New York City Fire Department and one of the first hazmat African American hazmat lieutenant that was assigned to a unit there, or whether it was saving New York City's oldest tavern, or doing all these different things many people have seen me out there doing, is because it came from that sense of service. That's the through line throughout everything that I do, especially now trying to elevate small business and get customers to understand the relevance of our local business.
And in light of your community support, you have a very big honor coming up. Queens Centers for Progress is going to be honoring you, presenting you with the Claire Schulman Spirit of Community Award on February 24th. What does receiving this recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
Yeah, first of all, we have to understand that we stand on the shoulders of giants, Jeff. We all have to recognize there were so many people that came before us, and Claire Schulman was one of those giants. We are standing, not just me, but even the current BP and so many others are standing on the shoulders of giants like Claire Schulman. And so it really means so much to me to have someone an award named after someone that is a giant in terms of service and public service. And when I came to this country, she was the bar president of Queens, and I came to Queens. I always often joke that I came from the island of Jamaica and landed in Jamaica, Queens. It was a different Jamaica, but all the same. And so receiving this award is truly a validation that all of the selfless things that I've done, and I kind of second guess, like maybe I should put more time into my family or put more time into making more money. This award made me realize today that it wasn't a mistake. Service is never a mistake. And to me, this is a validation of that. And I'm honored that I was chosen to receive this award, especially Claire Schulman.
And how does Nears reflect the spirit of Queens?
Well, I you look at Queens, and it's well known that it's the most diverse borough and diverse area in the world, right? And Neir's Tavern could have put jerk chicken or Caribbean dishes because I'm Caribbean. I could have put Thai cuisine because it didn't have any food when I got there. So I had to create something that reflected us as a people. And as one of the most diverse culinary destinations on the planet, what could I have created? And so I said, the All American Burger needs to be the centerpiece of one of America's oldest taverns located in the most diverse borough in the planet, right? And so I created the Neir's Tavern food menu based on the burger so that we can really truly connect and sit down and said, no matter where you are, we are all American and we can have an all American burger. And that's one of the things that I really pride myself in, and another way to bring a sense of community back to people that are from all walks.
What will the next chapter of Nears look like? Any upcoming projects, partnerships, or initiatives you'd like to talk about that you're very excited about?
Yeah, there's quite a few things this year. I don't know how I got into all these, but I'm going to reveal.
Because you're bored, you have nothing to do.
Yeah, I got nothing else to do. So so there's a few things I'm going to reveal today, right now. So if anybody's listening, listen up really closely. It's really going to be transformative. As many people know, since 2009, I've been on this Road to 200 campaign to bring one of America's oldest tavern to 200th anniversary. And so in 2029, Neir's Tavern will turn 200 years old. We're on that road right now. It's been rocky, obviously, and sometimes we think we're not going to make it. But with the help of Neir's ambassadors, customers, we'll continue on that journey, and hopefully people listening, right? And so how do we make sure that is stronger and we get there stronger and better? And it's because of a couple of projects like this. The first one is that we have entered into a joint venture agreement with several companies at JFK Airport to invest in the build out. And so that would give us an equity partnership with their success, and which will hopefully funnel back to Neir's Tavern to make it financially stronger. We don't have lines out the door. I wish more and more people would come to Neir's, so I have to find other ways to ensure that the mission of bringing Neir's Tavern to 200 years is more and more certain, despite if people are going to visit or not. I have to have some backup plans. Second is that we have two branded locations that are going to be opening in Terminal 8 and Terminal 5 in JFK. So yes, Neir's Tavern will be in JFK Airport in 2026, which will help us again gain stronger financial footing. And of course, the Queens Centers for Progress, even of fine food. I am definitely looking forward to that. Like I've been going for years and years. So that's another exciting thing. And of course, this award is going to top it off. So Jeff, I'm excited for 2026, my friend.
And I would love for any listeners who seem similarly excited and also interested in learning more about Nears. I'd love to know where they can go because I'm sure you have a website or any social media. So where should we point them to?
I want to tell you this too. I could tell you, listen, go to nearstavern.com, go to our restaurant, 8748 78th Street in Woodhaven, Queens. I could tell you all that, right? And I just did. And I could tell you, go make a reservation, 718-296-0600, and go to the website, make a reservation, all that. But what I want to tell you is that you should also email me, Loy at nearstavern.com. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Let's get together. Let's chat. Let's make something happen. And I want to also say, if you really, really want to move forward to support Neir's Tavern in a more meaningful way beyond being a customer, become a Neir's ambassador. Ask me about that. And these are my dedicated advisors and stewards for the road to 200. And together we're going to make it to 200 because I always say at the end of the day, together, community conquers all.
And I definitely will have you back a few years from now. No, I'll have you before then for the 200th anniversary because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of attention on that.
Yes, yes. And I didn't mention this, but Near Tavern is definitely turning 200 in 2029. Open or close, there's going to be 200. But we do an annual Road to 200 block party. So I really want everybody to realize that. So October, the first Saturday in October, every year, we've been doing it for probably the last 5 years. We've been doing a block party to count down another year closer to 200, and everybody is welcome. Everybody's welcome. So the first Saturday in October, come out. We've had 5, 6, 700 people come out. We have music, we have games, we have DJ, we give awards for some of our most supportive guests. So come on down and just really be part of the legacy of one of America's oldest taverns. Incorporate your legacy in the history of 200 years.
It sounds like a very exciting time. Loy Gordon, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you for having me, and the fact that you have me on here, you are part of the road to 200, Jeff.
Thank you. Neir's Tavern has also made its mark well beyond the neighborhood. Over the years, it has appeared on screen in movies and television shows like scenes from Goodfellas and Boardwalk Empire, proof that its old school character is as cinematic as it is authentic. And yet, for all its brush with Hollywood, Neir's remains what it has always been at heart, a neighborhood tavern, a place for conversation, celebrations, and a sense of continuity in a city that's always changing. And if you want to be able to join Loysand and celebrate him at the Evening of Fine Food, which takes place again on February 24th, then head over to the Queens Centers for Progress website at queenscp.org. queenscp.org. You could learn more and you can get your tickets. It will certainly be a happening event. And speaking of what's happening across Queens right now, no one has a better pulse on the borough than our next guest. Rob Mackay is with the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. And each and every week he brings us details on the fun, the fantastic, and the can't miss experiences happening all over Queens. Here's this week's report.
Well, Jeff, it's time to run up the store and get some gabagool. The Sopranos are coming to town. Museum of the Moving Image, to be most specific. On Valentine's Day, big day for you, Saturday, February 14th, the Sopranos exhibition opens over at MoMI. This is a whole rigmarole that talks about the characters, the plot lines, and everything else that they developed, and it includes all kinds of archival materials. And then a couple days later, on February 26th, starts 3 nights in a row of special screenings of Sopranos episodes and certain actors and the man who really created the show. who you might know of. He's a guy named David Chase, will be on hand to talk about the shows and everything else. So it's pretty good. And we all know that most of The Sopranos was filmed in Queens at the Silver Cup Studios, even though the storyline was about New Jersey, but it was filmed in Long Island City. All right. Thank you, my man.
Queens never stops surprising you. One moment you're discovering a brand new spot, the next you're standing in a place that's been here longer than the Brooklyn Bridge, and somehow it all fits together. As the writer E.B. White once said about New York, it's a city that contains all other cities, and nowhere is that truer than in Queens. Old and new, local and global, history and possibility, all sharing the same streets. For even more ways to explore the borough, visit itsinqueens.com. And if you're looking for business resources or opportunities for entrepreneurs, then head over to queensny.org. And remember, when you visit both of those websites, sign up for their newsletters. Now, when you're out enjoying Queens, perhaps when you step into Neir's, take a photo. Tag us on Instagram or X with the It's in Queens hashtag. Your photo might just become our photo of the week. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's episode of the It's in Queens podcast. I'll see you next time. Same borough, new discoveries.